Non-dual is becoming a big word in our current vocabulary, and Cynthia Bourgeault has a book on non-dual Christianity and so on. And right, the thought is, when it's non-dual, no separation, there is not an I-thou relationship. There is not the ability of one thing to love the other because it's all one thing. And so most of the mysticism that in Christianity we read would be dualistic, according to these people. It's an I-thou with God. And whereas Eastern religion in general is more towards the non-dual, you're just one with the one. However, there are those who think both are in fact operative, and we can honestly hold both. And even, we had a fellow here, Francis Bennett, I am that I am, and he was talking, I had to listen to on tape, I was away for that one, shame. But he was saying, even within the non-dual, it's all one, it's like you still keep a space in the psyche where you can see God as in relation to you and you in relation to God and have love. Because without that you can't have what we would call love, of the two objects coming together. You have union. Non-dual would have union, but you don't have love because love requires the energy between two, at least in the way we normally define the words. So it is a challenge for everybody. Abhishektananda, who is a writer, Abhishektananda, and his book Satchidananda, perhaps high point, he has a book on prayer. He was originally a French or Belgian monk who went to India to try and explore what is this non-dual stuff about? What are they saying over there? And for him it was a continual pull towards which is the more ultimate, is we can have this I-thou, but ultimately we merge, or we merge, but ultimately there is still this I-thou with God. And that was his life work, and it actually is not totally clear where he ended up. But in the book Satchidananda, he gives the case for the non-dual. First 2/3 of the book is explaining the Hindu position on the non-dual. The drop of water that goes back to the ocean, or the salt that dissolves in the water and becomes one. Then he opens up his section on Christ and the Christian view. And he said, and I'm wondering, what on earth is he going to answer? He's put such a good case forward for this other. What's he going to say? And he says, and I'm remembering back 40 years, a book I read a long time ago, but this is still stuck with me. He says, as Christians, our norm for behavior and belief is Jesus Christ. He's our norm. He's not just a helpful person out there. He's our norm. And Jesus Christ seems to have been able to say, I and the Father are one. And then he could also say, Abba, Father. So it seems Jesus could hold both of these realities and not have to sacrifice one. I'm going to go totally non-dual, so I better not say, oh God, help me, or vice versa. But we can hold both, and they seem to have a time and place, and it seems to be the Holy Spirit is at work there. Now, if you can afford a lighter comment, we've had the Jesuit Robert Kennedy, who's a Zen master from St. Peter's College in New Jersey. We've had him give us retreats, and he was giving us stories at one point, wasn't part of the retreat. There were about 5 Jesuit young Jesuit priests on vacation in South Africa. And 2 of them were following the Zen and the more or less non-dual stuff, and 3 were more or less more traditional, what we would think of praying. And one of the non-dual priests was out swimming and got caught in a cross current and is being pulled further and further from shore. I mean, he was in big, big danger. And I don't recall exactly how they got and rescued him and pulled him in. Well, one of the other Jesuits said, now, when you were just about going under and life was disappearing, what went through your mind? He said, well, my Jesus help me. And so for all of his non-dual background and no subject, no object, and all the rest of it, when push came to shove, he was, my Jesus help me. So there's a place for both. And how we work out that integration is a piece of how we, sort through with spirit our own spirituality and our working.